me. Twice in one day, you lucky buggers. Guess what Alex went and did. Sorry, I hate people who refer to them in third person. Guess what I went and bloody did? I deleted the original live stream. So, ever the doting host, I thought I would jump back on. My hair's a little bit more dishevelled, the makeup's come off. I've still got my fairy liquid washing up tasting water in my glass. There's an insight to how hectic I've been today. But I promised you a pattern chat on the tools of the trade, on what I grab every single day in my work, and I promised you a few quick, simple, easy tips on how to get started drafting your own patterns, and that is what I'm gonna deliver. If it kills me, I think I'm teetering on the edge of a breakdown here, guys. But it's cool. It was short and sweet anyway. We are gonna hello Helen. We're gonna give it a go. We're gonna give it a crack. I will try not to speed up my voice. I appreciate I'm a fast talker anyway, but I'm dedicated to bringing you guys this live stream and this content. I am kicking myself for deleting that. I thought if I deleted it off my business page, it would stay on my beautiful fashion studio group page. Turns out it's not the case. Good one to remember. Hope you have a notebook and pen because I have written that down, underlined it, and I won't make the same mistake again. Anyway, let's get into it. I am just going to go through some really basic pattern cutting tools that I use on the daily. You might want to invest in them. There is one or two in particular. I forgot about this in the last stream, so I'm already doing better. Tape measure, invest in one of those. And some of them you might just want to pass by, but find interesting to know what I use anyway. Regardless of your stance, I'm going to jump on in and stop waffling. So, the Pattern Master! I've got deja vu! The Pattern Master. This is my godsend. This is my one true love. You don't need a French curve. You don't need a meter ruler to start off with now. So this is kind of the like baseline. It's an amalgamation of all of them. You might see here that mine's a little rough around the edges. I have had this for years. And it is by far my most used tool with pattern cutting. You have, this is metric, you can get imperial. You've got the curves here that abolish the need for a French curve. You can do your armholes, your hip lines, your necklines. A really, really good versatile tool. I need to get another one because of the details and the measurements have started to fade. And of course, we need accuracy when we are pattern cutting. So Pattern Master, I believe it's about 30 quid. I will, thank you for my birthday wishes. Thank you, Cheryl. I believe they are 30 quid, although again, I bought this years ago. But I will put resources in the comments afterwards so that you can find one for yourself and invest if you'd like to. Tool number 2 is a mechanical or propeller pencil. Now, I did this before, trying to be a little bit of a beauty guru. That's what they do, isn't it? Hold it up to the camera like that. You need a pencil that has a very accurate nib. If you don't have a propeller pencil or a mechanical pencil, you know the ones that you click like this. If you don't have one of them, just become best friends with your sharpener. Just make sure that you have a very accurate fine nib so that you can do millimeter precision. Next up is your scissors, your pattern cutting scissors. If you are a sewist, you will understand the importance of not using your fabric scissors on paper. It will blunt your blades. We don't want that. These are probably from Poundland. They've lasted me years. I do have, should not do that. I do have scissor sharpeners that have kept my blades nice and sharp over the years. But of course you need some good paper scissors. Pattern cutting, it's in the name, it's a pretty good giveaway. A tape measure. This was round my neck in the last live stream I did, and I completely forgot to even bloody mention it. Of course, you need a tape measure. You need to be able to take accurate measurements. This has got both well, all tape measures do, imperial and metric. And I find I have a favourite tape measure. That might sound a bit strange, but one that like bends nicely and oof, yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'm after. So a good tape measure is well, it lives round my neck. I go to the post office with this round my neck. Seen out in public all the time. It's like I want people to know I'm a fashion designer. Basic bit of kit to have in your toolbox. Glue and masking tape. Now, I went into a very impassioned speech about the difference of when to use these in the last stream, so I'll try and keep it short and brief. I used to work under a couture house, and using masking tape was a big old no-no. To stick pattern pieces together, to stick paper, all of that. The reason why is because it's a bit clunky, it's a bit inaccurate, it can crumple, it can do all of this kind of stuff. Not to an extreme extent, but it can throw off your work by a millimetre or two. And when you're working in couture, a millimetre or two isn't good enough. And also, if you're grading patterns, so if you have a size 8 pattern and you want to grade it, that means the difference in sizes, up to a size 16, those 2 millimeters that masking tape has thrown you off by turn into a very big mistake once you get to your end size. So I hope that makes sense. The 2 millimeters just grow and grow and grow until you actually are out by quite a lot. If you use masking tape to stick your pattern pieces together, which is why we then choose to use glue. Use masking tape, guys. Just go against everything I just said. If you're doing it at home, if you're doing an initial pattern, if you're just working quickly and it's just for you, they do the same job. There's really no difference too much. So something to stick your paper together, essentially, is what I'm saying to have in your toolkit. Tracing wheel. Does what it says on the tin. You would trace your pattern pieces if you are manipulating the pattern pieces, if you are hacking them in any way, if you just want to make a copy. You will lay some paper underneath your original pattern. You will trace along the lines of your pattern, and underneath you will see some small indentations made by this little wheel here. These are also quite useful if you want to take patterns down from existing clothes that you own, but be very mindful with what fabric you use them on. You don't want to be using this on fabrics you could damage, such as leathers, because you can perforate the hide. This would be very fine and minimal on a cotton t-shirt. So you could lay your cotton t-shirt down and trace wheel all around it to create your own pattern. Those are the kind of basic baseline things that I would advise you invest in for your pattern cutting toolkit. Another thing to get or to look at would be a notebook, a pen, and a camera. You can't go wrong with those 3 basic things when you're learning anything in life. I am an avid supporter of a notebook and a pen. While you're making adjustments, you can take photos of what the patterns look like, you can take photos of what the garment then looks like, and you can see what works and what doesn't, where's going right, where's going wrong, and you can start to train your eye in that way. And that's a really, really good way of elevating your pattern cutting skill and knowledge, is to visually document the process and get it stuck in a notebook. That's really, really useful. I've completely forgotten. It was the tape measure to begin with, and now it's something else quite integral. Pattern paper. We can't make patterns without pattern paper or pattern card. So behind me here, you're going to see my pattern library. These are blocks. Now, blocks are basic shapes, so I will have a very, very basic trouser pattern there, a very basic coat pattern, a very basic woman's top pattern, etc., etc. I then will transfer those patterns onto paper when I want to elaborate on them and do something a little bit more design crazy. The whole reason they're on card is because they are the foundations, and paper can easily damage, it can rip, it can tear. That means the exact same thing. You can spill water on it, as I did earlier. Paper's just very easy to damage, whereas if you invest in some pattern card, then the blocks are a lot more sturdy, a lot more durable. And again, I've had those as long as I've had my Pattern Master. So if you take care of these things, they really do last. If you want to get pattern card, I do buy in wholesale, so I do buy large quantities. All you have to type in is Manila card. M for mother, A, N for Niagara Falls. Does anyone else panic when they have to do the phonetic alphabet? ILLA. Manila card, and you'll be able to pick some up for cheap. You don't have to get a massive roll that I do, and you just can back up. If you've got a favourite blouse pattern that's in your wardrobe that you want to copy down and save forever, get it on a bit of Manila card. In terms of the pattern paper, I would pull it out. I'm looking down here because they're stored underneath my pattern cutting table. In terms of the pattern paper, it's bloody heavy for me to pull out, but I get, again, a big roll of it from William G. I'll link that down below, and even that is only £30. But if you don't want a big hunk of pattern roll in your house, that's totally acceptable. Get creative. Use some newspaper, stick together some magazine pages. The only thing with that is they might not be traceable in order to see through them to the layer underneath. But there are always like cheap and affordable ways around it. So now I think I've covered everything. If I haven't, I'll pop it in the comments afterwards. But that really is my base rate on pattern cutting tools of the trade that I reach for every single day, that I find really useful. If you wanted to elaborate on that further down the line, you can also get a mannequin. Not essential, but how I use a mannequin with pattern cutting is I actually fit the paper patterns to a mannequin. Serves the same purpose, saves me cutting cloth, can actually be a really sustainable way of going through the process. So I definitely, if you're starting out, would not say go and buy, they go from 20 quid on Gumtree up to thousands if you're going to get a professional one. I'm not advocating that. I think you can start off with the basics. But in terms of elaborating your toolkit, I love them. I got names for them, although I haven't named that one yet. So let me know in the comments. I've got Mary the mannequin, and she needs a name. So let me know what you'd call her. Okay guys, I feel like I've spoken twice as fast as I did last time, so I do apologise. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk you through some really easy tips to kind of dip your toe and get into pattern cutting. And the first tip would be to learn how to take measurements correctly. It's the basis of any good pattern is accurate measurements. So the bust, the main ones we go for are the bust, the waist and the hip. The bust, just for reference, is the widest circumference around your bosom. That is usually over your nipple. Your waist is usually 2 finger widths above your belly button, and it is the smallest part of your body. And your hip isn't your hip bones. It's actually a lot lower than you'd consider. It's the widest part, and so that usually drops down a bit and goes right around your bum, and that will be your hip measurement. If you're trying to put on a pair of jeans and you take the hip measurement from your hip bones, when you open those jeans, they're not going to get over the widest part of your body. So that's why we make sure we always go for the biggest areas for wearer comfort. So that I'm happy to do another live stream on Top Tip Tuesday maybe. So let me know if you'd like that, and I can go through elaborating on body measurements, because of course it's a lot more than your bust, waist and your hip. So I'm happy to do that. Always welcome your suggestions. Take a breath. I'm literally like flying through this. Okay. I've mentioned it briefly, but another great thing to do would be to turn to your wardrobe and copy existing clothing that you already have. As I mentioned with the tracing wheel, be very mindful of what fabrics you're using that on. Another really good method you can do is using flexible, thin plastic, not quite as thin as cellophane or plastic wrap. I'll have to try and get an example for you. but you pin it up and around the more difficult areas, such like an armhole or anything like that that's hard to flatten out without actually deconstructing your item of clothing. So you pin this plastic around it and you can draw on in pen, and when you unpin the plastic and flatten it out, you will see your pattern piece there. Using plastic, you know what I'm like with sustainability. I wouldn't massively advocate it, but it is a very interesting technique that is very successful to use. So that is a really, really good way to get into it. Deconstructing unworn clothes is always a shortcut. I wouldn't advise stealing clothes of someone's without asking or that they still wear. But especially if you have clothes that fit you beautifully, but maybe it's ripped, maybe it's torn, maybe it can't be worn for whatever reason, you can deconstruct that item and note down the measurements, note down what is tailored to your body, because then you can make really beautiful clothes that fit your physique as they should. This is where your notebook and pen comes in handy. And then also any clothes, you might not even like the style of them, but to deconstruct clothes, you could go to a charity shop, buy something cheap, buy a coat that looks quite interesting on how it's constructed, and unpick that and have a look at the shapes. What shapes have made those features? And that is a really, really quick way to engage all your senses, really physically understand and get involved with a garment to see how that's made. And then if you're left with the pattern pieces, don't forget we always have scrap busters over on the resource library. They're completely free, so maybe you could make a little pincushion house out of what was once a pocket or something. Always try and be mindful and sustainable in your approach. And then we have the fashion file packs, and I will answer your question on books all for the books, but I have the fashion file packs, which are really, really good resources, guys. They're just as cheap as £3.50. That's so cheap. For how long they took me to make. And they all include various techniques and methods across sewing, across pattern cutting. You can get the dart manipulation pack here, and you can create your own fashion file pack, and they're just a wealth of knowledge. I hope you can see that. I think I just got better at presenting this thing to a camera. It was so clunky before. Look at me going all pro. So you can get these packs. They are available as individual packs now, or if you buy any PDF pattern with Digital Pattern Library, you get one with your pattern for free as a bonus. We have slash and spread techniques in there, and they're really good ways to start hacking patterns and making sure that you step into your role as your own designer. The 3 books I covered before were Winifred Aldrich. I'm not even going to try bothering again, but Winifred, I'll link her below. She's got women's wear, children's wear, men's wear. These were a lifesaver through uni. I briefly mentioned grading before, and there is basic grading theory in there. There is how to draft your own patterns from scratch in there. And they're really, really good. There is also, I'm just going to go and get my stash of books just for you all. Just for you all. I'm just going to go get them now. There we are. I hope you didn't miss me too much. Oh my god. Pattern cutting books are heavy, okay? They're heavy. They can also be expensive, so always try to buy secondhand as well. But specialist books, I mean, I'm pretty sure this one was like 30, everything's 30 quid in this video. This is Draping the Complete Course by Carolyn Kiesel. And draping is pattern cutting. It's just pattern cutting on the stand. This is really comprehensive and a really, really good reference book to have for working on the stand. And if you don't have a mannequin, there is nothing wrong with standing in front of a mirror with a bed sheet and some bulldog clips and just really playing around with shape, grain line, all of that. Perfect Fitting. This is also a fantastic book. I will make sure I link them all at the bottom for you guys to have a look at. Fitting is everybody's pain point. Everybody I've spoken to who has let me know their pain points when joining the fashion studio. It usually says something along the lines of fitting, and this is what makes your clothes look high end, is when you can really tailor them to your body. There's no cookie cutter figure out there. We all have completely different bodies. I have scoliosis, so I'm turning every which way. So even standard patterns I turn out won't be tailored to my body. So to get a fitting book would probably be second on my recommendation list to the Winifred series. We got another encyclopedia here, which is Pattern Making for Fashion Design. Helen Joseph Armstrong. I found this really beneficial too. And then if you really wanted to push yourself beyond and just understand more creative pattern cutting, the Pattern Magic series is fantastic. But don't overwhelm yourself, guys. This entire live stream was intended to be a dip your toe basics. Pattern cutting can feel overwhelming for a lot of people, and it needn't. It's a lot of trial and error, and it's a lot of allowing yourself to get absorbed in the process and understand what works for you. I myself am actually really trying to push my draping techniques as a personal development thing at the moment. But my point is to just start. I think a lot of people put it off. A lot of people think it's a hell of a lot of maths, which it can be, but it can also be done as a visual process of just manipulating it how you see fit. Trial and error. As I say, take photos as you go along, and over time you are gonna understand what tweaks you made, why that worked, etc., etc. So, yes, Isabel. Yeah, fab. Yes, everyone go have a look at Isabel's comment. Martin Schoben pattern books are great. So if we can all help each other with resources, that would be fantastic. I have an absolute library on this table that's always worthwhile dipping into. But the whole thing with the fashion file packs is they are designed to be digestible bite-size packs of information, so that you're not picking up you're not picking up this thing which I can fan myself with and getting overwhelmed. So decide what works for you. Pattern Magic books, you're right, they are beautiful, they're so interesting, and if you do them on small scale, you don't have to make a whole garment, you can just try out the technique. That's a great thing to put in a fashion file pack too. So yeah, I'm just going to leave you on that, guys. I always love a waffle at the end of these things. And if you have any questions, shoot them in the comments. This live stream is just for you. This didn't go to my business page, and I'm not going to delete it. This is going to stay in the fashion studio. It's just for you. I hope I got everything in there. And I'm going to go, what's the time? 5:20. Am I allowed to have a glass of wine? I feel like I need a stiff drink after today. Any questions, guys, you know where I am. I will always be dipping into the fashion studio and making sure I'm on hand to answer anything. Of all the things, tape measure and a pattern master. That's what I would say you got to start with, and you'll be good to go. But start looking at your own wardrobe with curiosity. Start figuring out what works for you and why, what these shapes make when they drape, when they are sewn together, and just really play around. You're going to create some exciting stuff, and I will be here every step of the way to see it. So take care. I hope you all have a lovely evening, and I probably won't see you on a live until Tuesday, but I will turn up bright-eyed bushy-tailed tomorrow. So see you guys. Bye-bye.